All right. So, as we always do in our FSLN hosted spaces, just want to remind us and ground us in our cultural agreements. These agreements were co-created by network members back in 2022 at our gathering in Canby, Oregon, and they have held us in community really well over the last number of years. So, just reminding us that together we honor and celebrate our collective wisdom. Together we know a lot. We're mindful of our power, privilege, and how much space we're taking up. We take responsibility for impact regardless of intent. We meet each other where we are. We give grace to each other. Silence is not consent. So we proactively seek permission and consent. We honor confidentiality, lessons leave, stories stay. Take care of our own mental, physical, and emotional needs. And we challenge assumptions, speak from our own experience, and respect our differences. So thank you in being culture stewards in community with us today. Okay, so I'm just going to do just a quick kind of overview of this evolution process. I know some of you guys that are in this call today have been here through this whole journey and others have not. So, as you know, the FSLN has gone through some pretty big shifts over this last 6 months. I think this week marks 6 weeks since the transition out of being a program of the Wallace Center and now being an independent organization within the fiscal sponsorship support of Multiplier. So the network was really launched in 2018. We had a very small team, me, Andrew, and Annalena, launched in January of 2018. And that first year, we launched the mentorship program and leadership retreats and a bunch of trainings and technical assistance and capacity building opportunities. Really, all the same stuff that you have known the FSLN for and that we have been hosting for all these years. 2020 really ramped up network activity. As you all know, that was a really wild time in food systems work and in our communities with the pandemic. And it was also a really great opportunity to see how this network could be activated to bring people together, to learn from each other, to strategize together, to figure out, what to do, how to handle the moment. And it really grew the network. We had a lot of new folks joining in. And it was a really dynamic time that then launched a lot of other new work in the years following. In 2021, the Food Systems Leadership Network and a different network that the Wallace Center at that time had been facilitating, called the National Good Food Network, merged together. It became very difficult to have multiple networks within the Wallace Center framing, so we pulled all that work together. And at the same time, just really doubled down on advancing racial equity in the network. We had a couple of really amazing trainings that year and some other deep work to kind of really center and operationalize racial equity in the network. In 2022, we had our network vision and strategy gathering in Oregon, where we brought together 75 network members to really map out the future of the FSLN and refine the unique purpose of this network within the broader ecosystem of food systems movements in the US. And it was a really amazing time, and that the seed for this moment that we are now in was planted at that time. Of really a call from network members for more member leadership, for being involved in shaping the future of where this network would go. And so here we are a couple of years later, and the FSLN evolution team kicked off in 2024. So I really want to honor the leadership of these 7 extraordinary people, several of whom are in the call today. I know Eowyn and Rich and Tamara, I saw y'all's names in the mix. So these folks came together over, I guess it was about 9 months to really collectively tap into our wisdom and discern like what is most needed from this network and what will help it to thrive in the years ahead. And what emerged from that team was a vision. And this vision was written in 2024, but it said by the end of 2025, the FSLN will be guided and supported by a network leadership council. So really realizing that desire for more member leadership and governance. Fully established with a values aligned fiscal sponsor, which we are now at Multiplier. Well resourced, stable, and positioned for growth into our vision. Operating from a place of abundance, being mindful of capacity and resisting urgency. Known and respected for its role in resourcing, connecting, and supporting food systems leaders, working in partnership with the Wallace Center after this transition and seen as a success of Wallace, and stewarded by a well-staffed and supported backbone team. You'll notice that there's a little yellow heart because we are close. We are moving in that direction, but it's not quite achieved yet. Although all those other check marks indicate that we have realized this vision that the FSLN evolution team set forth back in 2024. So first and foremost, we have an inaugural leadership council that came together and kicked off in April of this year. So Rev, who you've heard from, Tomas Delgado, I also believe is in the room from National Farm to School Network, Renee Katakalos from Fresh Farm in DC, Nikki Seibert Kelly, who is in South Carolina, Eowyn from INSAC, National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, and Angel Mendez from Red Tomato. So this crew has been connecting since early in the year, and we had our first retreat this summer to really build relationship and connection. And they're well on their way in moving the FSLN forward into this next chapter of our growth and impact. First decision that the team made earlier this year, the council, was which fiscal sponsor we should go to. I've since learned there are a lot of different kinds of fiscal sponsors out there, and they offer very different ranges of support. They cost differently. There's just like a real spectrum out there. And when we found Multiplier and started speaking with them, I had a hunch from the first time that they were the right fit. But pretty soon the leadership council agreed that this was the right fit for us. And I think what really distinguishes Multiplier from most fiscal sponsors is that they really are focusing in on accelerating impact. They provide the core backbone services that most of us, understand that fiscal sponsors provide, like finance and accounting and grants management and HR and some of that real administrative backbone. But in addition to those core acceleration services, Multiplier also provides a whole team of essentially strategists and advisors who can support the FSLN around everything from fundraising to strategic planning and communications and storytelling. And they have already, just in the last 6 weeks, have really shown up in these different areas. It's been extraordinary to work with them. I feel really supported by the team there. So while the current FSLN backbone team is a team of one, we have a team of about 30 at Multiplier who are providing financial management support, providing communication support, providing strategic planning support. So there's a lot of folks that we may not see as much, but they're definitely behind here kind of supporting the FSLN. So, as we are moving into this next iteration of the network, which will continue to do the same things that we've been doing: resourcing leadership, resourcing collaboration, resourcing movement work. We're also, coming back into kind of in a spiral of just checking back in with network members to check in on our purpose, check in on where we're going, check in on our priorities. And we're asking a couple of key questions. So first, and this is an area that we'll be kind of exploring today in breakouts, is what does it mean to belong to the FSLN? This has been a very big tent network, and to date, membership has meant showing up. If you show up, you come to a community of practice, you receive the Catalyst newsletter, you're involved in some way, you're a member. But also we need to have more clarity around that and to build more of a sense of belonging in this network. There's a question around how can we show up for our members right now in this uniquely challenging moment. Um, this is a really hard time. We all know that. We don't need to go into it. And our needs are changing. Our opportunities are shifting. Funding landscape is rapidly changing. So, what and how can the FSLN resource folks in this particular moment in time? Um, Related to this call for more member leadership and involvement in shaping the future trajectory of the network and understanding how resources are allocated, how decisions are made within this network, we really want to ask you and other network members, like what powers and responsibilities should FSLN members hold? What does that look like? And that's in defining the governance model for this network. And then, related to these other questions is just further refining our ideal niche within this ecosystem. There's a lot of networks and coalitions from the local to national and international level, and we want to make sure that the FSLN is bringing value and supporting the work of others while not duplicating services or confusing the landscape in any kind of way. So that's another question that we'll be asking as we proceed in the months and years ahead. So that's just like a little bit of an overview of where we've been and how we've gotten here to this very moment. And I just wanted to give a minute or two, a couple minutes to encourage people to just share your reflections on this. Like, what have you noticed? You could put it in the chat. You could take yourself off mute. But any reflections, appreciations, encouragement, or questions that you have about how we got to this very moment in time. And would love to hear from, leadership council members or folks from the evolution team if there's anything, important that I missed in that very high level quick overview of where we've been.
Well, I
Can I
can.
shout out? Oh,
Oh, no. And I see Miles has his hands up because he's very polite. But I can start as somebody who made the leap from the evolution team to the leadership circle. I mean, it there's no underestimating how amazing this transition has been under Susan's leadership, and truly bringing together just a circle and groups of people that have supported the network and have very different talents and contributions to bring, just making a very rounded out, grounded team who uh, moved things around in order to participate many a times. And like that's the first time I had seen that presentation where the evolution team had brought forward our recommendations that were, going to the directors of the food systems leadership network and the Wallace team all the way up the chain to Winrock, and what we thought was needed. And then all of those things were completed basically, except for additional backbone support, which, we need to get to. And so that having been done in less than 12 months is nothing less than a miracle, especially given the current constraints that we're all working under. And so it just is really special and magical to have been part of that. And now, even though there was like a spin off or spin out, and now a new fiscal sponsor and a whole new way of like operating for a project, there's still a huge foundation and body of work and lots of contribution to date to move forward on. And I think that's one of the best gifts of the FSLN. So great work, Susan.
Nice. Thank you, Ewan. And you're so right. Just like all the extraordinarily talented people who came together to make this happen, and who are all very busy in their own lives. So, and organizations. So, being able to make time to be a part of this, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. Miles.
Hey, all. Just on the reflection zone, Susan and I and others, but Susan and I in particular have been in this discussion around this transition for definitely more than a year. And I just want to say, it can never be faulted for not being thoughtful I'll tell you that. This has been a really thoughtful process. And what I think is I'm impressed by is that it's opened up, a good chunk of the people on the call right now are not only content people, but they're process people. And a lot of people aren't process people. They just want, tell me my resource, how can I do the work? And I think this process in my reflection in this transition has been really effective because it's opened up for those who are process people to say, come on in, I want to hear from you. But it hasn't forced that process on a whole bunch of people that would be too super turned off by it and not wanting to do it and just waiting for this next iteration, which is where it's at. So I want to commend sort of that balance of, you know what, I'm going to make sure there's ownership of this process by those leading it. I'm going to invite people to be a part of it, but we're going to do it in a way that honors everybody in the space they're in and move forward. It hasn't been easy, but I'm just excited being a process person going, okay, great, we're getting to it. And excited that all those people that are process have no idea of all the work that went on, and they're going to be super excited about it too.
Nice. Thanks, Miles. Miles and I did a facilitation training many, many moons ago together, and that's where we discovered our shared love for process. So thanks for naming that, Miles. Kelly.
I'm not next in line. Please, Rev.
Oh, Rev. Sorry.
I,
Thank you,
I
Kelly.
when she, okay. I just want to say I've been really impressed with the way we balance communication and inclusive communication and comprehensive communication with clarity. We actually get to the point of commitment to action. And because a lot of times when I've been in collective processes, people are very comfortable with ambivalence and it keeps you feeling insecure. And I like the courage of FSLN uh, you know, to collect the information and to massage it, to harmonize it with authenticity so that there is clarity and so you can have confidence with your action. And I love that. That's
Thank
it.
you. Kelly.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who I guess is kind of an OG with the network, though I didn't realize that. I date back to 2018 and was able to be present in Oregon. And so the first thing that I wanted to say was that you all deserve some pretty massive props because I remember a lot of these things coming out of that gathering. And for me, as a process person, I was like, oh, this is a lot of heavy lifts and it's going to take some time and some pretty massive shifts. So here we are 3.5 years later, and you've accomplished a lot of that really important work, which is really fantastic. Or maybe 2.5 years later, however time works. It's all an illusion, anyways. And then the other thing from that gathering that I wanted to circle back to, because for me, it's a metaphor that has been enduring when it comes to this network, is the idea of the network being like a port, like a home port. And we all have our ships and we stock up and we get ready for our journeys and we leave. And sometimes we might be gone for, just a couple of days. And sometimes that journey takes us far and away from our home port, but it's always there for us and we can come back to it. And so, as someone who sometimes is away for lengthy periods of time, I always find this to be a welcoming space where I am able to like re-provision my ship.
Nice. Thank you, Kelly. And you always bring back resources and materials and new seeds of ideas back when you come back to port. So it's important to leave and come back. It's part of the process. All right, one more, and then we're going to get into some small group discussions. Nikki.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to you, Susan, and to the transition team because it took a lot of courage. There's a lot of strength to being with a big entity, and there's also a lot of challenge, and to have the courage to push forward these ideas and to continue to push forward despite the like wild ride the last few years have been is incredible. And to still have the like tenacity and the energy and the positivity is like its own unique skill set. Because I think some of us have gotten a little salty And then my other job in this moment is to lift up the other comments. Just wanted to, people were really vibing on finding the niche. Like people are liking this. Like, let's not duplicate, let's find collaboration, let's find that niche. People wanting to know how can they uplift the work of the FSLN. So those were some of the key thoughts, and people just really appreciating the approach of multiplier and the work that you've done. So thank you.
Nice. Thanks, Nikki. All right. I know one of our like things that we love to do is connect with each other. So we're going to get into some conversations with one another. So Adam, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. And you know what? I need to do a proper introduction of Adam Brock. So sorry about that, Adam. So we have been working with Adam and his team at Regenerate Change for the last year about, I think it was about this time last year, we started really collaborating. I'd initially met Adam through National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition and some work that Regenerate Change was doing with NSAC and just, process support in, developing out how the coalition would be doing its conflict composting and really thinking through governance and, member leadership, a lot of great questions. And so we vibed. I was like, can you help us with this? And so Regenerate Change has been a really key ally and support system to the Food Systems Leadership Network across this last year. And frankly, we would not have been able to pull this off if it wasn't for them. So thank you, Adam and Abra and Asia from the Regenerate Change team. And Adam has been providing a lot of facilitation support with the Leadership Council. So I'm going to pass it over to him to get us kicked off in some conversations.
Thanks for all that, Susan, and thank you all for joining us for this Harvest Hour and for all the kind words you've shared. I could just share exactly the same things. It's been such a pleasure for our team at Regenerate Change to be supporting FSLN through this transition. And one of the things that struck us, almost from the very beginning of our work with FSLN is that it feels like a really special culture that Susan and her colleagues have been stewarding here. And I think the word that kept coming up as we were talking about what makes FSLN so special is belonging. It doesn't feel like something that you're just like a member of and get emails and attend a webinar every once in a while. It actually feels like a true community that's a rare thing for something that's mostly virtual all across the country. And as FSLN is entering its next phase, and asking some of these very thoughtful questions, what we've heard is that it wants to double down on that sense of belonging. And so for our breakout, our question for you is this. When is a time when you felt a deep sense of belonging to a community? And what were the conditions that allowed for that sense? So of course you could answer that in the context of feeling like you belong to this community, if that's the first thing that comes to mind, or something you really are excited to talk about. But we intentionally made it open-ended. Maybe you felt a deep sense of belonging to a different online community of practice or to a community in your hometown. It could be something professional, it could be something personal. But what we really want to get at is what is that special sauce that makes any one of us feel like, oh, these are my people. This is home. I feel safe here. I feel like this is something I want to keep returning to and that it's nourishing me in a lot of different ways. So we are going to send you off into groups. I'm not sure if we'll have quite 15 minutes, but I think we at least have almost that much time. And then when we come back, Nikki and I will lead a little conversation about what y'all talked about and what that might mean for FSLN. Yeah. So Nikki from a member of the Leadership Council for FSLN and I are gonna work with y'all to harvest some of the things that you shared in those small groups. So I'll kick it off and Nikki, feel free to jump in. But what were some of the themes or patterns that came up between the different groups y'all felt a sense of belonging to?
And you're welcome to drop it in the chat. I know not everybody is a talk out loud kind of person. That's okay.
Did you want only your group or another group?
No, any group.
Oh, I'll say something about the group I was in. There were two things that basically came up. Just the ability to be in the presence of heart-based conversations that came up more than once, and the idea that FSLN is focused on impact and intention as well as intentions, and the fact that equity was approached in a variety of ways, race, class, different kinds of approaches, and that made them feel like they belonged.
Mm, I love that. And I'll just echo some of the things coming through in the chat. I think what Renee said was pretty similar to something you mentioned, Rev, of holding space for hard conversations with respect and honesty. And again, a similar theme, going through tough times together and intentionality from Tracy. Eliza put consistency, service, and being recognized for your presence and gifts.
I'll share from our group. So Melanie and Allison and I were in a group and we talked about our experiences, and two examples came up. One is the being part of a group where you feel safe, where there's space made for you to feel safe, and that your voice can be heard, and that safety is really important. We also talked about the importance of play. I was particularly referencing and remembering like how fun it was to play high school sports and those bonds that you create with those friends, and it's because you're being playful together, and I think also going through a hard time together, to reference what somebody else, what Tracy said earlier. Those were some themes that emerged in our conversation.
Did anyone have an experience? Eileen just gave a great example of leaning into sports. I'd love to hear folks pulling in examples from other spaces where this really rose up for them. Anyone have an experience outside of this network specifically?
In our group, we talked a little bit about crafting and art making spaces. So a mending group came up and then a pottery class as well.
I can see some parallels there. I think that's what's one of the things I love about Regenerate Change, outside of just their skill set and great energy, is that I love a metaphor and I love seeing the parallels between, in their case, we talk a lot about nature and ecology, but the same thing of art and craft and these things that are healing and mending and building. A lot of that same language, I think, is what we're looking for, and that joy, that connection, that weaving. I love that.
Yeah. So, as you can imagine, we're asking y'all these questions, partly just because we're curious and it's great to talk about, but of course also this is important for us to hear as we think about FSLN and how it creates these conditions for you all as a mostly virtual network that's national. It's not the same as being able to sit in a circle and crochet or something like that, and yet we're all creative folks, and we know that even in contexts like this, there's ways to do that. So, Mary, we'll let you have the last word, and then we're going to move on to next steps.
I will be quick. One of the things I mentioned in my group is how laughter, I think, makes me feel like I belong. And I think there needs to be more space and time for laughter and joy to be a part of these conversations when life is so difficult. I think of those two sensations and experiences as their own pieces of resistance in the movement that way. So would love more time to laugh and feel joyful with one another.
Absolutely. What is it that they say? The revolution needs to be irresistible, right? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for those wonderful insights. And we will be reflecting back to you a lot of what we're hearing here in the weeks and months to come as we start our member activation process, which is what I'm going to hand it back to Susan to share about.
All right, you can pull those slides back up. There we go. Thanks, Adam. All right. So starting in the new year, and really this harvest hour is the first kind of step towards this journey we're about to go on, but we're really wanting to engage members in helping to shape and inform the next steps for this network. And so in Q1 of next year, this process is going to really get kicked off. We're going to keep doing these harvest hours quarterly and just building it as like a consistent time for us to connect with one another, build relationship, and focus in on the network itself. All the other times that we're getting together, we're usually having like content conversations. So being able to have a space to just like focus in on belonging and connections and thinking about the network's future together. We're also going to do a survey and some interviews, and that information is going to flow into essentially like a feedback document that we'll then share back with everyone else in the network to get some feedback on and to inform a visioning retreat with the leadership council and the core backbone team, which will be in place by Q2. And we'll use that information to come up with essentially a draft framework for the next steps for the network. We'll then do another iteration of feedback on that draft framework. So probably some kind of either like asynchronous opportunity or together in a harvest hour. And then that information is really going to flow into essentially a work plan, a strategic plan for the network. So aiming to be fully implementing that by the end of next year. And in the meantime, where we're headed in 2026 can be broadly bucketed in these three areas: resourcing leadership, resourcing collaboration, and resourcing network infrastructure. So early in the new year, we will be relaunching the Food Systems Mentorship Program, which has been really a cornerstone program of the network since 2018. We're also going to be resuming leadership retreats in 2026. So really excited to get those going again. And also working with our partners, and this really links over into resourcing collaboration to put together virtual trainings. We're working with DIESA Enterprises right now on a webinar series. We've got some really great ideas coming up in partnership with the Red Clover Collaborative, which I know Edna, you're here. Shout out to Edna and Lisa from Red Clover and the work that they're doing. So just continuing to bring emergent, trainings and technical assistance to network members as we head into the new year. And I know there's been a real strong calling for facilitation training. So we're working on pulling together something around facilitation for 2026. Resourcing collaboration happens in these spaces, in the communities of practice, and also in partnership with other coalitions and networks. So we're going to be doubling down in our partnership with the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, very determined to get federal funding, like permanent federal funding for local procurement. We've already got a couple of bills that are in Congress now. So just continuing to work on that and our farm to food assistance crew. And working with other networks and coalitions to do a gathering in 2026 to knit together this ecosystem of national and regional networks and coalitions to, going back to that piece about the specific niche, like how can the FSLN be a part of this broader ecosystem and how can we have that ecosystem functioning and flourishing better in the years to come. And then resourcing network infrastructure, that's just continuing to build the capacity of the Food Systems Leadership Network. So hiring a backbone team. We're going to be announcing two new opportunities in the next month or so. So there'll be an outreach and engagement manager, programs and partnerships manager. So those are two network backbone team positions that we'll be hiring for soon. Continuing to work on network governance and leadership pathways. So circles within the Leadership Council will be places where folks can contribute to network development and network governance. So more information coming soon on those circles of the council. And then also this member activation process that we talked about, and really identifying the priorities and clarifying what it means to be a member in the network and all of those questions that we had put forward earlier. So that's where we're headed in 2026. And with 1 minute left, I think there was one slide with the prompts. Just want to invite you all to think about what seeds are you planting, and how you want to engage with the FSLN in 2026. So hearing all these things that are happening, what's a seed that you'd like to plant for how you'd like to engage with this network in the year to come? You can drop them in the chat. You can unmute and shout them out. We're at the top of the hour. So thanks everybody for being here for our very first Harvest Hour. Thanks to the Leadership Council for helping to pull this together and shape it up. Thanks, Adam, for your work in partnership with us, and to everybody who took time to be here. I know y'all are all super busy people, so really appreciate you being here to invest in this community. Thanks for being here. Ciao.